So I didn't know if it was going to end up being like a very like WandaVision type beat where it was going to be like, as if the world was actually in my hands. And he was like, no, just... And I was like, oh.
Just when you thought the Snow White drama had hit its peak, Rachel Zegler walks into a Marvel casting call. Yep, the same Rachel Zegler who's been the face, and some say the downfall, of Disney's controversial Snow White remake, was recently spotted stepping into an audition that no one saw coming. Not for a fairy tale, not for a musical, but for Marvel. And as you can probably guess, the internet lost its mind. Rumors exploded across fan forums, Reddit threads, and Twitter accounts faster than a multiverse portal opening. Is Zegler ditching Snow White? Is Disney replacing her behind the scenes? Is she pulling a career 180 before the Snow White reboot even hits theaters? What's really going on here? Is this just another day in the unpredictable world of Hollywood casting? Or are we watching a full-blown strategic pivot from a young actress trying to outrun a PR disaster? We're breaking down everything, from the Marvel rumors to the backlash, the conspiracy theories, and the quiet moves happening behind the scenes that have fans shouting, "She's jumping ship!" But before we jump to conclusions, let's look at how this Marvel twist even started in the first place. No official announcement, no press release, just one sighting. That's all it took. Rachel Zegler, dressed low-key in an oversized hoodie and baseball cap, was reportedly seen entering a confidential Marvel casting call earlier this month. The studio, known for locking down secrets tighter than Tony Stark's suits, has kept things silent. But according to multiple insider leaks and a handful of industry gossip accounts, the audition happened. And it wasn't for just any role, it was for a major upcoming Marvel project tied to a new phase of the MCU. Once the whispers started, fan speculation turned into a frenzy. People immediately connected the dots. "She's abandoning Snow White," one post read. Another asked, "Is Disney quietly transferring her to Marvel to save face?" The idea that Rachel might be moving from one Disney division to another, especially after the Snow White controversy, felt less like a coincidence and more like a chess move. But here's where it gets even messier. Zegler hasn't said a word about it. No tweet, no denial, no PR team statement. And in the world of celebrity silence, that often speaks louder than words. Now here's the thing. Marvel casting calls happen all the time. Actors go in, most don't get cast. But this wasn't just a maybe. This felt different. According to one industry blogger, the timing of Zegler's Marvel audition wasn't random. It was calculated. It's not about getting a role. It's about getting away from that role. And remember, Zegler has already worked with major studios on high-stakes projects like West Side Story and The Hunger Games. She's no stranger to pressure. But walking into Marvel's house while Snow White is on fire? That's a whole new level of bold. It's got fans asking, is this a career pivot or a career rescue mission? And it wouldn't even be a question if it weren't for the absolute storm that's been brewing around Snow White itself. Let's rewind for a moment. The Rachel Zegler Snow White drama didn't come out of nowhere. It was ignited. It all started with interviews. Zegler, while promoting the live-action Snow White remake, made several statements about how this new version would be nothing like the original. She said things like, "She's not going to be saved by the prince," and "She's not going to be dreaming about true love." That might sound like a modern update, but to a massive portion of Disney's fan base, it felt like an attack on something sacred. The original Snow White, released in 1937, isn't just a movie. It's a legacy. It's Disney's first ever feature-length animated film. To fans, this wasn't just a story update, it was rewriting history. And Zegler, whether she meant to or not, became the face of that rewrite. The backlash was immediate. People started sharing clips of her interviews side by side with quotes from Walt Disney himself. Entire YouTube channels dedicated videos to what they called the Snow White disaster. Hashtags like "Not My Snow White" and "Fire Zegler" began trending on and off throughout 2023 and 2024. It didn't help that Zegler doubled down. Instead of walking back her comments, she leaned in, calling the Prince character weird and joking about how she didn't even like the original movie. To many, this came off as arrogant and disrespectful. Then came the memes, thousands of them, posts mocking her attitude, screenshots of her interviews with sarcastic captions, and even deepfake edits putting her in older scenes with text like "fixed it." It was savage and non-stop. Even Disney seemed to go quiet. Promo materials dried up. Teasers that were scheduled were suddenly delayed. People started asking, was Disney second-guessing their casting choice? And that's where the Marvel theory really started gaining steam. Because if you're Disney and your Snow White star is now a PR liability, what do? You don't fire her outright. That would make headlines. You move her quietly to another franchise, one with more wiggle room, one that's more action, less nostalgia, one like Marvel. But if that's the strategy, then Zegler's Marvel audition isn't just about landing a new role. It's about escaping the storm, and it's only going to get more complicated from here. When a studio as powerful as Disney starts going quiet, that's when you know something's seriously off. After the backlash to Rachel Zegler's Snow White interviews reached full-blown chaos mode, Disney's response was silence. No rebuttals, no clarifications, no cleanup interviews. They didn't defend her. They didn't correct the narrative. They just stopped talking altogether. And in Hollywood PR, that's not damage control, that's containment. Insiders began leaking that Disney's executive team was not happy. According to multiple unverified reports from entertainment journalists, internal meetings were held about how to refocus the narrative around Snow White. Some claimed that Zegler had gone off script during the press tours, while others said her comments were approved, but only in theory, not in tone. Behind closed doors, a different strategy was allegedly forming. Diversion. Let's break this down. When a lead actor is facing negative press that could tank an upcoming film, studios often try to change the conversation. That doesn't mean firing the actor. That would draw even more attention to the issue. It means quietly pivoting them into another role, another franchise, something that can rebrand their public image without directly addressing the scandal. Enter Marvel. Marvel is still one of Disney's most bankable properties, and while it's taken a few hits in recent years, it's still where stars go to build most or rebuild careers. Think about it. Chris Pratt was the goofy sitcom guy before Guardians. Robert Downey Jr. was a walking tabloid before Iron Man. Even Brie Larson, after being hit with heavy online backlash, continued anchoring MCU projects with Disney's full support. So when Rachel Zegler was spotted at that Marvel audition, it didn't just feel like a random opportunity. It felt like the start of a clean slate. One source went so far as to suggest that Disney may be prepping a Phase 6 or 7 project centered around a younger, diverse team. Think Young Avengers or a female-led ensemble. And Zegler's name is now in the early mix. And get this, the same source said this was not the first Marvel-related conversation she's had. So is this just about expanding her career? Or is Disney trying to push her into a universe where controversy is less likely to damage legacy IP? Either way, it's no coincidence that Zegler's Marvel audition leaked right when Snow White promo efforts suddenly disappeared. But all this leads to one very uncomfortable question. Is she choosing to jump ship, or is Disney quietly handing her a lifeboat? Let's get one thing straight. Rachel Zegler hasn't said she's done with Snow White. There's been no statement, no cryptic Instagram caption, not even a passive-aggressive tweet. But that silence? It's starting to sound a lot like a goodbye. Fans have been combing through everything. Her interviews, her posts, her public appearances, trying to find any sign that she's still committed to Snow White. And lately, there's not much. She's been focused on the Hunger Games prequel, making lighthearted content, and most recently trending because of a Marvel casting rumor she won't even acknowledge. So now the question becomes, is she walking away or being gently walked away? From a PR perspective, stepping away from Snow White could actually help her in the long run. Why keep yourself attached to a project that's already polarizing half the internet before it even hits theaters? Why ride a sinking ship when you can hop into a billion-dollar cinematic universe and start fresh? And that's where a lot of fans feel betrayed. In the original hype around Snow White's remake, Zegler spoke with pride about playing a Latina Snow White, about updating the character, about being a symbol of change in Hollywood. But as soon as the public turned on her, some people feel like she just vanished from that mission. The same people who cheered her casting are now asking, where's that energy now? The online reaction has been brutal. So much for being proud of the role, one comment read. Another said, she talks all that talk about Snow White, but as soon as Marvel calls, she ghosts the whole thing? But it's not just criticism. Some fans understand the pivot. They see it as a smart career move. They argue that Zegler's being unfairly dragged for speaking her mind, and Marvel could give her the platform and protection she's not getting right now. One viral post put it like this: Rachel's not jumping ship, she's jumping out of a burning house. Still, the optics are messy. No one knows if Snow White is quietly being reworked, reshot, or delayed. And with Zegler stepping into a different Disney franchise, speculation is reaching new heights. So what's really happening behind the scenes? Is this a young actress taking back control of her career, or a studio reshuffling the deck to protect a multi-billion-dollar brand? Whichever it is, the next move could change her entire trajectory. And it's not the first time we've seen this kind of pivot. Rachel Zegler might be the name in the headlines right now, but this kind of move, from controversy to comic book redemption, is far from new. In fact, some fans are starting to notice a pattern. When a rising star faces backlash or stumbles in the spotlight, studios don't always cut them loose. Sometimes they rebrand them. And Marvel, that's where the image rehab happens. Let's talk about Brie Larson. When Captain Marvel was announced, Larson's interviews sparked divisive reactions. Critics called her condescending, socially charged, and out of touch. YouTube was flooded with videos dragging her name, and entire Reddit threads were dedicated to the so-called Captain Marvel problem. Sound familiar? But what did Disney do? They doubled down. Instead of sidelining her, they made her the face of the next MCU phase. They positioned her alongside Iron Man and Captain America. She became untouchable. Controversy didn't cancel her. It cemented her as a Marvel icon. And then there's Letitia Wright, who faced public backlash after sharing controversial views during the Black Panther 2 production. For a moment, people genuinely thought she was done, but Marvel stayed silent and then kept her front and center. She went on to lead the sequel. The press moved on. The controversy faded. It's a playbook, and Zegler might be on page 1. Here's the formula. Take the heat off the actor, surround them with a massive ensemble cast, bury the drama under spectacle, and let the box office do the talking. Marvel doesn't just build franchises, it protects investments. And there's another layer, timing. All this, the Snow White fallout, the Marvel audition, the sudden PR silence, it's lining up too neatly to be random. Some speculate that Disney's already prepping Zegler for a reveal at one of their upcoming events. A teaser, a casting drop, something clean, flashy, and far removed from the dangerous storm surrounding Snow White. Because when Marvel brings you in, the narrative changes. You're not the girl who joked about a fairy tale. You're a superhero, a multiverse warrior, a symbol of empowerment in spandex and CGI. And maybe that's the plan. Zegler's public image is bruised, but not broken. And if Disney's proven anything, it's that they know how to spin the story when the stakes are high. But the audience isn't buying everything just yet. If there's one thing the internet never agrees on, it's redemption. As Rachel Zegler's Marvel rumors caught fire, the online reactions weren't just loud, they were divided down the middle. On one side, you've got the critics, vocal, unfiltered, and relentless. These are the fans who felt let down by her Snow White comments, the ones who saw the original as a classic and took offense to what they felt was her rewriting its legacy. For them, the Marvel move feels like a calculated dodge, a way to escape the mess without ever apologizing for it. She disrespected a legacy role and now she's off to play a superhero? One tweet read, "She's not growing, she's just hiding." Another viral TikTok compared her Marvel audition to someone burning down their own house and then walking into a mansion next door like nothing happened. These fans don't want to see her rewarded, they want accountability. But then there's the other side, just as passionate, just as loud. These are the ones defending Zegler's right to speak her mind. They say the backlash was overblown, that people twisted her words, that she's being vilified for daring to bring a fresh perspective to a dated fairy tale. And to them, Marvel isn't a bailout, it's an upgrade. She's outgrown Snow White, one Instagram comment said. Let her evolve. Let her play something with real depth. Others pointed out the double standard. Male actors say outrageous things all the time and still get billion-dollar roles. Why is Zegler held to a different standard? This clash has sparked full-blown debates, not just about Zegler, but about celebrity redemption, media narratives, and what we expect from public figures. Some say she owes fans more transparency. Others say she owes them nothing. But everyone agrees on one thing. If Zegler is joining the MCU, Disney's going to have to walk a very fine line. Too much promotion, and it'll look like they're sweeping the Snow White mess under the rug. Too little, and it'll feel like a secret side deal they're hoping no one notices. And stuck in the middle of it all is Rachel, silent, watching the storm swirl around her. Is she weathering it or waiting for it to blow over? The answer might come down to what happens next with Snow White itself. Now that all eyes are on Rachel Zegler's next move, there's one big question hanging in the air. What happens to Snow White? The movie, once positioned as Disney's next flagship live-action remake, is now sitting in a cloud of uncertainty. Its original 2024 release window? Quietly pushed. New trailers? Nowhere to be found. The official Disney social media pages that once teased casting announcements and behind-the-scenes moments? Strangely silent. Even major Disney events, where you'd expect a film of this scale to be hyped to the skies, have tiptoed around it, and that silence is loud. Multiple reports claim the film has undergone additional edits and possibly even reshoots. Some insiders speculate Disney is reworking Zegler's role just enough to distance her from the marketing, without having to recast her entirely. It's not about removing her, it's about minimizing the risk. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's been done before. Studios often shift gears when lead actors become liabilities. Look at Fantastic Beasts. After the Depp drama, the franchise was rebranded around other characters. Same universe, different focus. Some fans are wondering if Snow White might quietly do the same. There's also talk that the film could end up as a Disney Plus exclusive, rather than a theatrical release, a move that would lower expectations, avoid box office disaster, and help the studio spin the narrative as a streaming first event, a graceful exit disguised as strategy. At this point, even the strongest Disney fans are unsure what the studio's plan is, and with Zegler now possibly joining Marvel, many are wondering whether this was the plan all along. Did Disney decide that the backlash wasn't worth the risk and start working on Plan B behind the scenes? Is Marvel that Plan B? Or, and this is what some fans fear most, is the studio hoping the public just forgets the drama altogether? Regardless, the message is clear. Snow White's future is no longer just about the film. It's about what Rachel Zegler represents. And for better or worse, she's now caught in a battle between legacy and reinvention. But if you think the story ends here, think again. Rachel Zegler's Marvel audition may have lasted just minutes, but its impact? It's rewriting her narrative in real time. From fairy tale princess to superhero hopeful, she's not just jumping genres, she's jumping realities. And in Hollywood, where timing is everything and silence is often louder than a press release, this move feels anything but random. Was it calculated? Probably. Was it necessary? Maybe. But was it surprising? Not at all. Because when your name becomes polarizing and the internet turns your interviews into memes and your studio goes radio silent, there are only two options: ride the wave or swim to safer waters. Right now, Zegler might be doing both. She's not just walking into a Marvel casting call, she's walking into a second chance, a new brand, a universe where controversy doesn't stick. It vanishes behind the next CGI battle or multiverse twist. But here's the real twist. None of this guarantees success, because the audience she left behind with Snow White, they're watching, and the fans she hopes to win with Marvel, they're skeptical. This isn't just about casting, it's about credibility. So where does that leave Rachel Zegler? On the edge, between two empires, two legacies, and two very different futures. And in the end, maybe the real question isn't if she's jumping ship. Maybe it's this: what happens if the ship she's jumping to starts sinking too?